to be welcoming each and every one of you to this really insightful and interesting event. Now, tonight's event is co-hosted between the St Kilda Shule and the Young UIA, and it is not specifically designed like that, but it so happens that there's a bit of a St Kilda Shule feel to the evening, because the president of the Young UIA, who is Sam Kagan, who's going to be thanking everyone and closing this evening after our event, it also happens to be a long-standing member and a board member of the St Kilda Shule as well. And the two guest speakers tonight are also very much part of the fabric of our Shule. So it's certainly very, very exciting for us to be able to be hosting or co-hosting this event. Tonight, we're going to be hearing an in-conversation between Chazan Brett Kay and Adam Schwab. Now, Chazan Brett Kay is, in addition to being the Chazan of the St Kilda Shule and internationally renowned Chazan, might I add, with a beautiful and mellifluous voice. We see the spotlight on Brett now, so you can smile at the camera.
Hey, Rabbi, I paid him to say that.
Thanks so much, Brett. But he's also a genuinely nice guy. And in addition to that, he's also a tour curator. So he takes groups on tours all around the world. He's been to many, many countries, and I love following his posts when he travels internationally and does all these different things with a specific focus on the Jewish elements of the different cities all around the world and the most far-flung places that you could imagine. He's got a huge wealth of knowledge and a breadth of knowledge with regard to anything and everything Jewish whenever he goes, but of course he's able to double up when he goes on these tours. And in addition to educating the people who go there in a fun and interactive and engaging way, you'll sometimes see a video of him just ascending the bima of some shul in the middle of Europe or in the middle of God knows where, and giving a beautiful rendition or a beautiful singing of Avinu Shabashamayim or another beautiful song. So Chazan Brett Kay is very well placed tonight to be on the in conversation, to be asking questions of someone who also knows a lot about travel and a lot about different places in the world. And that leads me to introduce our second speaker, our second guest tonight, Adam Schwab. Now, Adam, even though now he's spotlighted again. Hi, Adam. You can wave to everyone. Good to see you there. Now, Adam his family has also been very long-standing members of the St Kilda Shule, and I started at the Shule about 9.5 years ago, and would see Adam at the gate when I used to come to Shule, because, well, I still come to Shule obviously, but every Shabbat there would be different rotation of security roster people, and Adam is on the security team. And to be honest, Adam, I didn't actually know about your successful business ventures until just now when we were putting together this event, because I'm not someone who travels all that much, to be honest, so it's not really in my purview. But what I found quite remarkable is that when I learned about who you are and your role in the business world and the incredible successes that you've had, I just thought to myself, but hang on, is that just the humble, down-to-earth, salt of the earth Adam that I see every Shabbat at the gate? And indeed it is. It's the same person. So I think it's a beautiful testament, the fact that you have been really successful in building a company or a business called Luxury Escapes, which you started, I believe, around 7 years ago. You were the co-founder and current CEO, and you've built it into a multi-million-dollar company, which is really, really special. And if I'm not mistaken, you have some 230 team members across 4 different continents. And next year, you're expected to have a turnover of in the vicinity of about $500 million. Hopefully, it'll be a big booming year for the travel industry, because this year clearly wasn't. So it's going to be a fascinating conversation between our Chazan Brett Kay and Adam Schwab to be talking about all things travel and all things destination focused. And I suppose it's a great way to experience as we come to the closing part of 2020, where we've really been locked up in our homes and haven't been able to experience much of travel, to at least be able to escape through luxury escapes with our imaginations and take us to these far-flung places. So on behalf of the Young UIA and the St Kilda Shule, I'm absolutely honoured and delighted to welcome both of you, and also to welcome all of our guests who are filling up the screens as we speak now. And now I'm going to hand over to Khazan Brett Kay and to Adam Schwab to give us insights into your world. And we are all very excited to hear what you have to say. And thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Yaakov. So I want to welcome everybody today, and a very special welcome to Adam particularly. And thank you for joining us, Adam. I know when I spoke to Adam today, he told me that it was the first day in which he was heading out to take his kids to one of the play centers. So you've had a pretty hectic day, Adam. I've no doubt. We really hope that you've got yourself a nice gin and tonic in front of you, and that you're relaxed. And this is certainly going to be a relaxed evening. That is the plan. Because when we talk about travel, we talk about escape. We talk about getting out of our mundanity of life, and we like to take ourselves somewhere a little bit other. So before I even start having a chat to Adam, I just wanted to say that because it is a Shule function, we need to sort of put a little bit of a Shule spin on things. And we're looking at the different portions of the week at the moment. And if we think about it, we're talking about great odysseys, great journeys. Abraham moved from one place to another on the way to the land of Canaan, and then Jacob and Isaac, his son, then moves, and then Jacob, his son, is about to go on a big odyssey as well. And we talk about these big trips that they make and these journeys, and we talk about the preparation and the things that they schlep with them. Travel is not easy. Travel is not something that happens like this. It takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of mental insight. And do you know what? One of the most amazing things, I think, in the world of travel is really planning the trip itself. And Adam, I want to hear more about that from you, because for me, going on a trip is fun, but planning a trip is equally fun. And I think for a lot of people, the joy and the excitement that they get from Googling, from looking, always making sure that they are well planned, well prepared, etc., I think is one of the big thrills and joys of travel as well. So my first question, Adam, that I'm going to put to you is like this. Us Australians, we love good success stories. We love hearing people succeed. We love hearing about their successes. And when it's a good Jewish boy or girl, that makes it even sweeter for us. So, Adam, I want to ask you a question. We know that you came from the world of corporate. Can you tell us, what is your backstory? What led you to the world of travel?
Thanks, Brett, and thanks, Rabbi. Can you guys hear me okay? Brett, can you hear me? My headset didn't work. So myself and Jeremy, my co-founder and schoolmate and still business partner, we had a fairly unusual journey. I won't sort of go do the full story because probably lack of time. But sort of back in 2004, I was working at a firm called Freehills as an M&A lawyer, and Jeremy was at ANZ Investment Bank as a trader. And we both wanted to do something a bit less corporate, especially jets. So we didn't have anything in mind. Back then, this is 2004. This is before the days where being an entrepreneur was glamorous and cool. This is pre-Zuckerberg, pre-Elon Musk, or PayPal, but pre-Tesla. And this is when being an entrepreneur was sort of still Christopher Skase and Alan Bond. But that sort of didn't really deter us. We tend to be a little bit contrarian. And we just started a really low-tech business that provided accommodation to sort of high-end backpackers. So we effectively provide furnished apartments to people staying in Melbourne for a short period of time, and actually take the risk on filling the apartments. And ironically, when we rented our first apartment to start this business, we both still lived at home and had never rented an apartment for ourselves. So we started that business. We then pivoted that business to a corporate apartments business. So the same thing, but for corporate guests, so IT or lawyers or bankers or whoever. And we still have that business in a smaller way now. And then a few years later, into the 2009, 2010, we started our first e-commerce businesses. And our first one was a business called deals.com.au, which was a Groupon clone that sold a deal a day. And we realized pretty soon after starting that business that perhaps the deal a day business didn't have great what we call unit economics, or didn't have a great what we call product market fit, which is sort of startup talk. But we realized that the travel part of that business, so selling holidays, seemed to really resonate with the customers, resonate with the clients, be it the hotels, and also had a really great what we call unit economics, so that the basket size was quite high. So we're able to grow and scale that part of the business, and then sort of spent 2 or 3 years working on that. And then in 2013, spawned Luxury Escapes, which was a spin-off of our deals business. So we started that, and we just sort of grown it since then.
All right. And Adam, just in general, did you have a passion for travel yourself? Is it something that you particularly enjoy personally? Your family growing up? Was it something that was a part of the fabric of your family growing up, etc.?
Not so much. My parents travelled a lot before we were born, and they did a lot of. Now it was considered usual. Back then, probably wasn't. They went to places like East Timor, and this is in the 70s, so sort of far-flung places. But us as kids, we tended to sort of go to Sydney or locally in Victoria. I don't think I'd ever stayed in a 5-star hotel, ironically, before I started Luxury Escapes. So a bit like the apartment thing, we certainly weren't travel experts, and that in a way may have helped us coming to it with a bit of a sort of fresh view and being able to try different things. So we certainly didn't have the background that the travel agents would have. We've picked it up. We're pretty fast learners, but we certainly didn't know much back then. And there's still obviously a lot of gaps in our knowledge now. There's a lot of technical parts of travel and the back end of travel, but ultimately, no, we certainly weren't experts, and we certainly weren't 5-star travelers back then by any stretch.
Okay, really interesting. Because I know that, for example, there's some people that come to travel for a whole variety of reasons, often because there's a genuine passion for travel. People love to experience new destinations, etc. But also because, I suppose in your instance, you saw a gap in the market and it was an economic decision. And it'd be interesting to know from my point of view whether or not in the course of you designing, your company designing these various trips, have you fallen in love with any of the destinations that you guys are involved with?
I'm sure that's a good question. Probably my wife's from the UK, so we tend to often go back to the UK each year and travel from there. We love Fiji now, which we hadn't ever gone before. Fantastic for kids. We went skiing in Japan this year when that was the first time with the kids, which was great, which was a Luxury Escapes partner. Took our first cruise last year. We probably won't do one for a little while, although we had a great time, and again, fantastic for kids. So probably nothing specific, although you experience in a different way. We actually my wife and I did a Jordan and Israel trip last year, and I didn't expect to like Jordan particularly, but loved it. So that was something that I never would have experienced, to do the Bedouin tent in the desert, which was an amazing experience. Obviously Petra, and then obviously go across to Israel and see the contrast. So that was an experience we definitely wouldn't have done that we absolutely loved.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about Israel and Petra, etc. It's quite amazing, I think, the misconceptions that people have as well around travel, and how travel has the potential to educate people, not only about destinations, but also about people, and about, I suppose, the different ways in which we can interact with culture, whether it is through food or whether it's through just spending time, or in my case, we spend a lot of time through music and dance, etc. But I think that for a lot of people, I think what you said was that once you experience something, you then begin to understand and move forward. So you weren't a big traveler necessarily, but as you've moved along, you've begun to appreciate different destinations. And I think that's pretty common in the world of travel as well. Just by the way, everybody out there, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Adam or myself, please message it, private message the host, that's in Kilda Shule, and Rabbi Ronnie will, at the end of our session, he'll be looking at some questions as well. Feel free, any questions that you had for Adam or for myself. Adam, I suppose a big question for you. What do you think is the secret ingredient that made Luxury Escapes succeed the way that it did? Travel has been going for such a long time. Travel agents, travel companies, etc. have existed for such a long time, and yet you guys came along and you really cornered a piece of the market in a really substantial way. So what do you think it was about Luxury Escapes that achieved that success?
I'll answer in two different parts. I think the first part is we had a lot of luck along the way. So I think we're in the right place at the right time, and just tried a few things that happened to work. So that was a big part of it. And it's funny when I sort of think back now, and there's now actually a really common route for startup entrepreneurs take. And if there's anybody watching this video now, but there's now things called incubators. So the famous one's Y Combinator in San Francisco. That's incubated businesses like Airbnb and Dropbox and a bunch of others. And the one in Australia is called StartMate, which I'm actually mentoring. So what these incubators effectively teach you is they give you a small amount of money. You work with these great mentors, and they tell you how to build a business. They tell you things like CAC and LTV, which is cost of acquisition and lifetime, but all this stuff that we had no idea about. No one really talked about it back then, and how to raise money and how to speak to VCs and all this kind of stuff like network effects that we didn't really know at the time. But one of the big things that any incubator tells you is when you're starting a business is find out a problem and solve that problem. And ideally a problem that's close to your life. And the best businesses, I was listening to a podcast with Drew Houston, who's the founder of Dropbox. He was saying he left his flash drive at home one day, and that's what gave him the idea for Dropbox. So these ideas that come to people in their everyday life tend to be really good ideas. The Airbnb guys famously had a spare room, needed money, and they had that design conference in, I think it was San Francisco, and they rented that room. That was Airbnb. So often it's the ideas that come to you in your day-to-day life that are the best ideas. For us, it wasn't like that at all. So we saw this Groupon business, and we saw the travel part of the business doing really well, and we kind of back calculated our problem. And we sort of found out we solved a couple of problems. And the problem we solved for customers, and you sort of touched on it earlier, we actually solved two things. One is buying travel is really hard. So if someone knows you and Brett, and they know you can take them on a tour, that's great. But most people don't know you and don't know how good that is. So for most people bumbling around on the internet looking to go somewhere, it's really hard. You can go to booking.com, which is the world's best travel business, $100 billion business, and there's 300,000 properties on there, and it's really hard to know where to start. So what booking.com and Expedia are really good at is just giving everything there, and then it relies on the customer to know where they want to go. But if you don't know where you want to go, it's hard. Well, I think the other extreme are travel agents. So if you're a high-end travel agent, give a really high-touch, fantastic experience, you tend to need to have a lot of money to be able to access that really good travel agent. And the flights into this world, which is called the lower-end travel agents, they're kind of fading away now because they find it really hard to have that product market fit anymore. And so what we do is we kind of combine them both. So we try and give the high touch of travel agents. You can call Luxury Escapes, you can speak to somebody in Melbourne 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they've got that really high touch, but also we curate things. So if you look at our homepage, we have 40 or 50 products on there, and they're ordered not by how much commission we get, but by basically most profitable deals. So the things that people want the most are at the highest on our page. We try and curate the best deals that people like the most without sort of fear or further. And we'll also do things like provide lots of content, write magazine articles, film videos. So we try and give customers as much of the travel agent experience as possible, but most importantly, at a really big discount. So most of all our deals will be 30+% off. Some are 50 or 60% off, depending on what it is. So we provide this really great discount for customers while also providing curation. And the way we can provide the discount is by what the problem we solve for hotels, which essentially they've got this great agency cost in that hotels are owned by a single person or a company, and then often managed by a big brand like Hilton or Marriott or Hyatt. And it's really hard for those brands to focus on one hotel. So what we do is we go to a hotel, it could be Ritz-Carlton Bali or JW Marriott Phuket, and we'll say, we'll focus you on our site. We'll give you lots of media, lots of marketing, and deliver you lots of room nights in really quick time that nobody else can do, that Marriott can't do, that Booking.com can't even do. And we'll do that because we can focus our attention on one or two, up to 40 properties, but really focus on a couple of properties. So at the moment, we're working with Outrigger in Waikiki and giving them a lot of room nights that nobody in the world will be giving them. So because we can focus so much on certain properties and make these properties lots of sales in a short period, they give us this really good price. And there's a few other things we do, but by giving this really good price to us, we pass that price on to our customers, and ideally it becomes a win-win-win. We just sort of sit in the middle and try and grease the wheels of that transaction, essentially. So we sort of found our problem a couple of years after we started solving it, which is a bit of a perverse way to start a business, but it kind of worked fortunately for us.
Right, interesting. And I mean, obviously that whatever it is that you've just said now has translated into success, because you guys built yourselves an incredible business. A real testament to, I suppose, to the entrepreneur's brain that both of you possess. On the subject of an entrepreneur's brain, I know that you're very, very involved in the world of entrepreneurship, and that you've actually published a book through Amazon. I read in your biography that you published a book through Amazon called Pigs at the Trough, and that was really well received as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book?
Okay, that was actually pre-business. So so I've been a business journalist on the side for about 15 years, and John Wiley asked me to write a book in about 2008, 2009, and they came with a few ideas, and I didn't really like those ideas. So I'm happy to write a book on what I thought was interesting topic, corporate greed, basically. And they agreed to it. I don't know if that was foolish on their part, but they agreed to it and sold a few copies. And it was actually good fun. The writing part was a bit tedious, but it was sort of 3 months of pretty sort of grueling work. I didn't have a ghostwriter, I just sort of wrote it myself. But no, it was, and part of the reason for the journalism thing is, while I've had the entrepreneurial stuff on one hand, is sort of maintaining that link to, I guess, my past and that sort of academic link. Not that I'm an academic by any stretch, but that sort of philosophical link almost. And that was really good fun. And I think we sold sort of 5,000 copies, which I think in Australia classifies as bestseller, even though it didn't sell that many. But yeah, no, so it was good to get it done. And so I've been planning a second book for a while, but still never quite got to it.
Amazing. Awesome. So I definitely think it's important that we bring whatever it is that was successful in our past, in your case, your experience in the law, in journalism, etc., to whatever it is that we do. And I think all of those layers definitely contribute to the success that we have in any particular venture. So that's really interesting. I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room. And I think that for my friends in the travel industry, I can say this year has been no short of devastating. It's been a year there's an expression in Yiddish that we say, "Men tracht," Rabbi, you'll have to correct me maybe, "und Gott lacht." Man plans and God laughs. In other words, we can have the most grandiose plans. Things can be going in the most incredible direction with success and happiness and thought, etc. And then all of a sudden something comes and just blows everything out of the water. So for us in the travel industry and the hospitality industry, that has been Corona. And I know that that all of us, Adam, have been hit particularly hard, and definitely it would impact not only necessarily on your world now, but also in your projection moving forward. So I've got two questions for you. First of all, can you just tell us a little bit about the impact of coronavirus on Luxury Escapes 2020? And then also the opportunities that have arisen out of this devastating virus, because I always like to think of opportunities when it comes to challenge, and how you think that travel is going to look when when we emerge back into the world of what we call COVID normal.
Thanks, Brent. It's good questions. I think in many ways we've actually been really lucky, and it's weird to say given we own a travel business, but I think it's all in relativity. I guess we look at us compared to not just travel, but compared to a lot of other industries that have been absolutely decimated, from live music to Shule hasn't been open for 8 months now. So there's been so many industries that have been, I think travel gets probably the lion's share of attention, just because it's such a visible thing. And there's certainly a lot of travel, and the travel agents like Flight Centre have been absolutely smashed, and they've got most of their staff still furloughed now. I think we were really lucky for a couple of reasons. I think if the businesses that have been able to, obviously you've got the e-commerce businesses like my friend David Shaker's business, Kogan, and they've been absolutely fantastic through this period. So some businesses have genuinely benefited from it. So to put them to a side. But I think if you look at everybody else, I think that, and my friendly podcaster Scott Galloway makes the point that the businesses that are best placed to withstand a pandemic are those with high operational leverage and low financial leverage. That is, you can toggle operational leverage. Means how much control do you have over your expenses? Have you got fixed costs like rent versus non-fixed costs like marketing? And then financial leverage, obviously, how much debt you have, debt being a fixed obligation. And in both cases, we're actually really lucky that we have high operational leverage. So most of our costs are marketing and staff. So marketing, you can very much toggle on staff. We had JobKeeper, and during the sort of really bad times, people were taking three days a week and paying down leave. So we were really lucky in that respect. We have no debt. So very low financial leverage and very high operational leverage. So we were really well placed as far as travel businesses go to withstand the pandemic. And the other thing that was in our favour is because we sell really special deals, the vast majority of our customers didn't ask for a refund. Some wanted a credit, which we were more than happy to give. Some needed a refund for personal reasons, which we always did our very best to help with. Most people are just happy to defer the dates. If you've got a deal to the Maldives that's 50% off, most people are pretty happy to keep that and wait out the pandemic, unless you had really personal pressing reasons for needing the cash back. So we've been really lucky in sort of three regards, that our cash balance never really dropped. So that's obviously the big thing is how's your capital position? Do you need to raise capital, which we didn't, and we maintain our cash balance. We only sort of drops 5 or 10%, I think, from our pre-COVID cash balance. Certainly our P&L's been hit over the journey, but that's partially because we brought our team back July 1. So we had a full team 1st July, which is again pretty rare, and actually been hiring people do some pretty exciting products that we'll launch. And we've taken this as a real opportunity to. The biggest competitor, Flight Centre, is really shutting down that leisure business, shutting down a big chunk of that leisure business. So whilst the OTAs like Booking.com and Expedia and Airbnb will go from strength to strength, and I think certain travel agents will be fine, but that sort of Flight Centre style travel agent are really struggling. So we're taking the chance now to really beef up what we do and not simply sell flash deals, but sell a lot more product, which we'll be launching in about a month or so.
Great. And so, I mean, we'll get to the second part, which was what travel is going to look like post pandemic. But just with relation to what you said, some of the smaller travel agencies definitely have been very badly impacted. There's no doubt. Some of the larger ones, I think, will come through the other end. What about those people? Just for example, who have booked something with you guys? You said that you might give a credit or that you might give them a refund should they really require it. Is that dependent on whether or not, let's say, the hotel that perhaps you have got the deal with, that you signed the contract with, will give you back the money? So, for example, if Marriott has said, okay, we're going to refund you 100%, is that something that you would then pass on to your clients?
It really depends. And we've spoken a lot to the ACCC about sort of that situation, but ultimately, of the people, most people are fine not to get a refund. So for the vast majority, it's not an issue at all.
Right.
And then you look at the people who sort of want or need or would like a refund. And there's a few different buckets there. But ultimately, if the hotel's shut or if the cruise isn't going or the tour is not happening, all those people are entitled to a full refund should they want one. So if we've got the money, we'll pay it back. If we don't, we have to ask the airline or the cruise company to give us the money back. In some cases, we've sort of refunded anyway and said, oh, we'll chase that business. But usually we sort of have to wait for that money to come back, which can be really quick, can be slower. If it's going to be really slow, we'll sort of take it upon ourselves to take the hit and hope they pay us back, or we sue them or whatnot. And there's some cases where someone isn't owed a refund, but they have genuine hardship, or they've lost their job, or they've got COVID, or someone's passed away, in which case we'll often give what we call a good faith refund. That's pretty common as well. So I'd say the majority of people who've wanted a refund have got one, and it's probably the minority who. For example, somebody bought a trip in May post-COVID, and then they decided to change their mind a month later on a non-refundable package. We may not give them one because ultimately it sets a pretty bad precedent. But if somebody bought something a year ago and they've lost their job and can't afford to go, even if it's non-refundable and the hotel's open, we'd probably still give a refund in the situation. So it really just depends on. It's hard for me to comment without knowing the specific situation, but we always try and do our best to help out the customers, because ultimately our business is based on repeat usage and what we call net promoter score. So if people don't come back to us time and time again, we don't have much of a business. So we'll always try and do our best for the customers, because we know how important word of mouth is and how important repeat customer usage is.
Great. Adam, I think you might agree with me when I say this, that I think what this pandemic has taught people is the importance of booking travel through travel professionals. I know so many people who have been stung having booked their travel on online platforms, I'm not going to say names, but for example, where one books a hotel and all of a sudden there's no one to talk to at the other end of the telephone, or books a plane ticket and the Garuda lines are down and you can't get through to anybody for love or money. I think it really has brought home the fact that to have somebody on the other end of the telephone is vital. And I'm hoping that when we come through the other side of this pandemic, that people will pick up the phone to their local travel agencies or to Luxury Escapes or wherever it is that they feel comfortable booking, and that they will actually talk to human beings and rely on the experience and the knowledge and the safety and security of the travel professional at the other end of the telephone. Absolutely.
One thing that I've always sort of had a probably an overzealous focus on is our customer service. And I'd sort of semi-retired for the business for about 18 months and came back a couple of months ago, sort of mid-pandemic. And one of the first things I wanted to do was get our customer wait time down. And I'm pretty happy that, I think as of last week, after your voice recording, our pickup time was down to about 2 seconds. So I don't think there are too many businesses in the world that have that kind of wait time with sort of hundreds of thousands of customers that you should call Luxury Escapes 24 hours a day and hopefully wait for less than sort of 30 seconds in most cases. So that was, I'm pretty proud of the team to be able to get to that standard, and they've got a pretty tough job, the CS team. So it's hard being in the middle of airlines and cruise companies and a customer who wants their money back. So I think they're doing a fantastic job. And NPS is back up to 71, which means about 90% of our customers are happy to recommend them to friends and family. So the guys have done a really good job.
That's wonderful to hear. You know, Adam, I've spent most of my working life in Jewish schools, and recently in the world of travel. I can tell you that both of those avenues have a very high degree of anxiety attached to them, because it's a big investment in both cases. And when people plan a holiday, they invest money in the experience, in creating the memory, and that's really what travel is, isn't it? It's about the investment in memories. And I don't think there's any better investment. That's just my personal opinion. But I think that the person on the other end of the telephone really needs to be, in this case, almost like a psychologist, because to manage people's expectations, and this is a shout out to all of the travel professionals out there who cop a whole lot of abuse on a daily basis from people who really are frustrated. Particularly in this climate, their dreams have been crushed to a large extent. And I think it's just a message to everybody that we really need to temper ourselves and just understand that there is a human being on the other end of the phone. I sometimes feel it, for example, if I'm on the hold to Telstra or Optus or whatever it is for an hour, 45 minutes, all I want to do is just scream my lungs out at the other end of the phone. But really and truly, we know it's not the person's fault at the end. But we do need to manage expectations as well. And also just to acknowledge the incredible work that travel professionals do. And I'm sure that you're one of the main tributes, or that you can attribute the success of your business to large part because of the amazing staff that you do have and the way in which they do their jobs.
100%, and especially the guys on the end of the phone have without doubt the toughest job in the business. It's as you say, you want to make the sale, you want to help the customer out, but you don't want to oversell it. So it's a really difficult role, and also a role that, and one of those roles that's really hard to do well. If you're a salesperson, for example, if you're a rabbi, if you do a really good job, everybody knows it because everybody hears the verse, so everybody sees your sales results. If you're a salesperson, if you're a customer service agent, and you do a good job, it's really hard to get recognized. A bit like if you're a content writer, it's really hard to be recognized if you write a really great deal. If you stuff something up, everybody points the finger really quickly. So, and they're really the hardest jobs where almost it's really hard to do it well, but it's really easy to get the blame when something goes wrong. And part of our culture is how do you remove that blame culture that is pretty pervasive across corporate life globally, and reward people when they do a good job and not be quick to point the finger when something goes wrong, because often it's not the person's fault, or it's bad luck or whatnot, or someone has made mistakes, so be it. Unless you make mistakes, you don't learn. So that's certainly one of the challenges you have. We have every day with a team of obviously a couple of hundred spread around the world.
Agreed. I want to ask a question. Leading up to COVID, the cruise industry was breaking all records. All the major cruise lines were building these mega ships, Silver Sea, Seabourn, Ponon, Oceania, Crystal has just built a new expedition ship, etc. And we love cruising. It's a big part of Australian culture. It's an easy holiday. You unpack your bags once, you could go and head through many countries in a very short time, etc. I'm on a cruise ship at least 2 to 3 times a year. I always do a back-to-back cruise with my tours, etc. What do you think is going to happen to the cruise industry?
Guys, can everybody hear me okay? I've just got a message from Mum saying I'm not very loud. Put your hand up if you can't hear me very well. Okay.
I can hear you fine.
You can hear it? Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's a good question about the cruise. Cruise isn't a huge segment for luxury escapes. Probably 5% of our sales, 4% of our sales were cruise. Although it was growing really, as you say, it was growing really nicely pre-pandemic. That's it. And I went on my first cruise last year and we loved it actually, much more than we expected to. And now we understood why so many people love cruising, because it was such an amazing experience. The ability to go to all these different cities without having to unpack, and the food was pretty reasonable, and the kids' entertainment was fantastic. So we loved the experience. And I think there's a big cohort of rusted on cruise lovers. And we've seen our cruise sales are certainly a lot lower than they were last year. They're still actually going okay, surprisingly, compared to other parts of the business. So I'm actually pretty optimistic that cruise bounces back quite hard. I think once the initial panic, obviously not now while there's still so much COVID in Europe and the US, but I think once hopefully post-vaccine, I think cruise does come. I think people have pretty short memories for bad stuff. I think there's a big cognitive bias to success, and I think cruising will come back. I think maybe new cruises might be a bit slow, but I think people have been on 5, 10, 15 cruises and know how much fun they are, will go back pretty quickly. And we're selling some great cruise product, and surprisingly well, much more than I expected.
Good, I hope so. I mean, I really do, because I know that the investment has been huge, and it is. It's an awesome holiday for those people who have cruised. And you're welcome to talk in the chat if you want to say something. If you've been on a particular cruise line that you particularly love, give it a shout out, because Australians love to cruise. They love to cruise, and we hope. I'll give you an example. I got on the phone last week. I'm looking at a package in 2022 that I want to put together to Antarctica. And I talked to a few of the cruise companies that we work with, and I can tell you that it was already getting hard to find availability and space for a group booking, which made me feel really, really good. First of all, it was amazing to get on the phone and to actually be back in the mind space of having a chat to some of my friends that I haven't spoken to for a very long time. Lots of people, as you said, have been furloughed. Lots of people have taken time off. Thank God for JobKeeper, etc. How lucky are we? In this country that we're lucky to call home, that we do have this help from the government. The travel world, we would love some more help, but by the same token, we're very thankful for what it is that we have. But it's just good to be back in the swing of things, and I feel that there definitely is an energy, and I'd love you to comment on this. I feel that there definitely is an energy, and that we are moving in the right direction. Our numbers are right down, and particularly within Australia, we see that, well, I found, and I'd love to hear this from you as well, I found that there is a real desire for people to either get in their cars, to hop on a plane, and really explore some of the places that perhaps they would not have done when Italy, or when Bali, or when the Philippines, or all these, or India, etc., were part of the landscape of our travel plans.
Absolutely right, Brett. It's we certainly saw it in June and the first bit of July. So as the borders were opening after that first wave, June was a record month for us, transaction-wise, and actually profitability-wise as well, despite being notionally in the middle of the pandemic still. So that snap back came really quickly, and then obviously it pulled back pretty hard in July and August as Victoria locked down so hard, and as New South Wales shut their borders or Queensland shut their borders to everyone. But we saw a significant snap. For us, the challenge is not so much demand, because we'll sell what we put up, but it's actually getting the deals. Because obviously we sell discounted product. If a hotel's trading really well, they don't really need us, and nor do we push a hotel. If a hotel is 98% full, there's no real need for them to discount 50%, because why would you? So for us, as coming into the summer season when hotels are busier generally, it's not necessarily, we tend to sell more international than Australia around this time of year, but we're obviously flash back to selling as much Australia as we can, given people can't leave. But yeah, the demand is absolutely there. And certainly in the last couple of weeks, certainly as Victoria's smashed this second wave, we've seen confidence not only to go interstate, but also international even. People, and as the vaccine news came through last week, we've had a fantastic result with Maldives a couple of weeks ago and Hawaii this week. And these are places people obviously won't really get into probably for at least 9 months, probably 12 months. And they are fully refundable and for travel to 2022, but definitely the people have the confidence to pop down 2, 3, 4, 5 grand on an overseas trip they're not going to take for 9 months shows, as you say, a degree of confidence that things will get better eventually.
Great. So, Adam, you mentioned earlier on that cruising would contribute about 5% of your turnover, roughly, whatever, to luxury escapes. What would you say is your bread and butter? So, what is it that really is that cash flow that you guys generate? That is your most popular, I don't want to say product because you have many products, but what is it that really creates that flow for you?
Absolutely. So for us as a business, and the way I like to explain it is, so I'm sure you've been to a supermarket many times, and when you go to a supermarket, I used to work in one when I was young, there's the end of the aisle and there's the aisle. And the end of the aisle has each week it changes, but it's a discounted product. Could be Dynamo, could be barbecue shapes, could be whatever. And it's 50% off or 40% off or whatever. It's a big discount, and that's funded by the supplier, and they get it's like advertising for them in a way, marketing for them. And then you got the aisle itself, which has all the other stuff. So what Luxury Escapes historically has been is the end of the aisle. So we'll run a hotel for 1 to 2 weeks only, so a really limited run, a bit like a supermarket, and we'll discount at 50% like a supermarket does. So we don't have the aisle, or historically have never had the aisle. We're only the end of the aisle. So as opposed to Booking.com or Flight Centre, which is the whole aisle. So that's how we sort of differentiate ourselves. So most of our revenue, call it 80% plus, have come from those end of the aisle, 50% off Ritz-Carlton Bali type deals, and tends to be flop and drop style hotel products. And I think what we realized probably 18 months ago was we need to get more of the aisle. So it's great being a flash sales provider, but you eventually sort of capped on, certainly within Australia, how much you can sell. Because ultimately, if someone wants to go to the US or the UK, we can't really sell, or US or Europe, we can't really sell what they want. If someone goes to the US for 22 nights on average, staying at 5 different places. We may have a place in LA or New York, we wouldn't have the whole trip because it's just not what we do. So what we, and really what we did as COVID started hitting in March, April, was say, we've got all these tech resources, all these sales guys, girls who can't work properly. Let's get them doing something else. So the idea we came up with is what we call a curated marketplace. So as of December, when you go to Luxury Escapes, you won't just be able to get the 50% off super deal. You're able to go anywhere in the world, or any main destination in the world, Rome, London, Tel Aviv, wherever, Brasilia, wherever you want to go, and you'll be able to get something. It won't be as deeply discounted as our existing products, which will still be there, but it will be better than Booking.com and Expedia and anywhere else. So if you want to go to New York, you might see the Hotel Bowery, you might see the Grand Hyatt, you might see the Mondrian, which we signed yesterday, and you might get free breakfast or 20% off or free valet parking. You're going to get a better deal than anywhere else. So we're building that out as we speak, and hopefully as COVID lifts, that'll be sort of really raring to go with 1,000 plus what we call tactical offers. So really changing the offering through COVID. So really trying to bounce back and become in a way, a really high touch but full service travel agent online, but not Booking.com with a million different things. We'll always be curated. It'll be 4, 5, 6 star. And will be maybe 10 or 15 things in New York, not 500, but 10 or 15 things will be really great quality. And also 2 or 3 will be significant value adds in there as well, which you can't get anywhere else. A bit like a virtuoso type product that a high-end travel agent would provide, but available to anyone.
Right. I was just going to say that the company that I work with, Experiential Travel, we're one of the founding members of Virtuoso Australia, and I think belonging to a particular club really does give a particular benefit to travel, because as we all know, you go to walk into a travel agency, you will sell the same product, and we can all purchase the same product, and the hotel will sell it for the same price, etc. It's about value adds, and it's about what I get in addition to that free set of steak knives, that marketing that is such a very big important part of sales. So that's awesome that you guys are taking on that challenge, because I think that'll do really, really well, particularly moving forward. I wanted to just ask you a question. Somebody's brought up a point. When I do my tours, for example, they are very bespoke. So I'm not in the situation that you are in, where I need to cater to thousands of people. I know that I'm going to have my 25 people that are going to join me on my journey. So therefore, I can curate it to fit the tastes of the people who are coming with me on that particular journey. This year, unfortunately, the first trip we were going to go on was to China in April. And that's pumped when Corona started in China. So that was like blown out of the water. Obviously, we're then supposed to be in Poland and Lithuania in July. But the trip itself was designed specifically for the people that were coming on that journey. Do you have the ability for some of the product that you sell? So somebody, for example, asked the question, they would have liked to have gone on a luxury escapes trip. However, there was no kosher food available. And they said, is there any way that this could be adapted, a tour could be adapted to specifically fit a kosher group of people that want to travel together? In other words, is there flexibility when you come to design tours?
Really good question. I think that I think what you do, Brett, is that sort of next level curation, which a company like us can never match. So I think there's a cohort of people that should only go on tours with you, to give you a plug, because ultimately, nor us, even though we're pretty high end, we can't match that kind of level of bespokeness that you can provide. That's pretty unique, really globally. So I think you're a separate case. I don't think anybody can match that. I think one product, the other thing we're building alongside that marketplace, something we call Trip Builder, and something I've been looking forward to. This will come out probably early next year, and that's effectively a self-guided tour product. So we sell tours which are much smaller than the big bus tours, but not as curated as yours, Brett. So we might sell a trip to a really high-end safari to Africa, which is about half the price of Abercrombie and Kent, because we cut out Abercrombie and Kent, who are probably the best tour operators in the world for that kind of thing. But they tend to go through sort of retail, wholesale. We cut that out, so we can sell Abercrombie and Kent style product at half the price. There's a limited number of those things you can do. There's sort of Africa, there's you can do cruise through Danube, there's Turkey, Egypt. There's a few sort of stock standard routes, but at our sort of, we need to get a critical mass of sales, so we can't be as bespoke as a really high-end travel agent. But one thing we are doing is building a trip builder product. What that will allow us to do is create templated trips for what we call FIT, so free independent traveler, so not guided, so not being guided by a professional. This is people who want to go themselves, and also to be able to create your own template. So because we're going to have all this new product, what you can do is say, I want to go to the US, and we might create a templated trip for the US. It could be landing in LA, going to Disneyland, getting your Disneyland tickets, going to skiing in Lake Tahoe, going to San Francisco, doing a tour of Alcatraz, going to cooking class somewhere, going to Hawaii, and then flying back. And we'll be able to sell that whole experience, and you'll be able to effectively use our trip builder product to create your itinerary online and also buy the product. So there's a few itinerary building products out there, which I'm sure lots of people listening have used, TripIt or Travify. There's a few of them. I know when I travel, I tend to use an Excel sheet because it's actually really hard to use some of these products. But what we're building is a way for you to really easily, using what we think is pretty smart UX or user experience, is create almost a drag and drop solution where you can build your trip online, or you can build your trip with one of our consultants who will talk you through it and share the screen. And it literally drag and drop different hotels and different experiences, and we can sell everything from your lounge pass in Melbourne. We should hopefully have a Luxury Escapes lounge at the airport, shared with Etihad and Virgin pretty soon. So you can book your discounted lounge experience and have a few whiskeys and a meal on the way out, and land in LA and have your transfer booked, go straight to the Sofitel, get free breakfast and a free cocktail at night there, have your Hollywood tour booked as well through us, or book something on the app while you're there, and then book your flights, your internal flights, and have everything self-contained in the one sort of, effectively in your app. And so having your itinerary, we can just add and drag and drop and change to. So that's one thing we're really focusing pretty hard on building and creating what we think would be the ultimate online experience that hopefully comes pretty close to what a high-end travel agent can provide, which is that ultimate bespoke experience.
Thank you. So I think really the answer that I would give to the person who asked that question was that, not everybody can be everything to everyone. And it takes all types to build a world. And I think that if somebody specifically wants to travel and eat kosher food, then they need to therefore attach themselves to a tour that is strictly. And there are lots of there's sites online, jewishtravel.com, etc. And I think that when it comes to those type of experiences, then they won't be disappointed, because then you know that all your boxes are ticked, and it's not necessarily something that you would necessarily take on board. Having somebody there with giving kosher advice, etc. It's not something necessarily the Luxury Escapes would do, which is fair enough, because we can't be everything to everyone. You mentioned something about this jigsaw puzzle style travel, which I love, where you take bits and pieces, and I assume that's going to cost X, that's going to cost Y, and then at the end of the day, you build according to your budget, which I love. One of my favorite travel shows that I attend, because I love travel shows, so I'm a virtuoso but the one probably that really speaks to me the most is the Pure Travel show, which is in Morocco every single year. And Serge, who started this particular travel show, as well as Ellie Miami, which is another one that takes place in the States, their focus is specifically on experiential travel. And I think that when people are traveling these days, this is my experience, that the idea of, it's always nice to go, as you said, and do the flop and drop, go to the Ritz-Carlton, Bali, lie down, sip cocktails, etc. But I think that coupled with that and adding to that is very much this desire, this drive for people to actually experience, to go and do things like, whether it's bungee jumping, whether it's whitewater rafting, whether it's trekking through villages, etc. And also something that I found very, very more and more in common is that people like to have opportunities to give back. So ways in which one can interact with locals, and perhaps work in a village for a particular day, attend a school, and look at ways in which we can use our success and our luck, I suppose, from Australia to be able to contribute to maybe some of the poorer countries that we visit as well. Is that something that you find, or something that you've added in particularly some of your products, more in the experiential way of traveling?
It's a good question. We certainly do it with our tour created by Luxury Escapes to a product, which was a growing part of our business, but it certainly wasn't as big as as you say, the flop and drop Maldives, Thailand, Bali stuff, which is sort of what we're known for. We're certainly trying to do more of that stuff because I agree. It's even when I went to Fiji last year a couple of times, a place called Jean-Michel Cousteau Resort, and you spend a day going to a local Fijian village and the school and see the kids, and our kids play with the kids there, and that's the thing you remember from the trip more than the cocktail by the beach. You had that anywhere. It's that real experience that you do remember. So it's absolutely something that we should do more of. We do a little bit of, but probably not enough. I think what you say is completely right. And there's no doubt that experiential travel is a huge growth market. And I know the Intrepid guys, Daryl, who's a fantastic guy who runs Intrepid, notionally a competitor of ours, but not really, does an amazing job with that. Probably more 3 to 4 star than 5. But yeah, I 100% agree. It's certainly the future. Is a massive growth area, and it's a fantastic way to travel.
Yeah, because as I said earlier on, I think travel is really about building memories. It's also about spending time with people that you love and solidifying relationships, etc. Hopefully you come back from your travel stronger than you were before. It doesn't always happen that way. But most of the time we hope that it does. But most definitely, I think the opportunity to experience local culture, eat local food, etc., I think is very important. And I think from my experience, more and more people are looking for that thrill. So whether it's the adventure worlds, whether it's Intrepid, as you said, Peregrine, etc., some of the 3-4 star travel experiences, I think that we're seeing more and more of that. So when it comes to local destinations, what's hot at the moment? Where are people going for Christmas?
It's a little bit border dependent because people still aren't fully sure where they can go. But we've been selling a lot of. We've had a Kimberley tour on yesterday. It was our #1 seller.
Amazing.
We had never really sold tours within Australia. We just couldn't get the supply, and the team's worked really hard over the last 6 months to get some great high end. We got a coral cruise up north. It's been a really big seller. It is a pretty high price product in fairness, and not for everyone, but yeah, certainly Queensland remains really popular as long as Anna opens her borders, which would be nice. I think the most popular route over the last 3 months was Brisbane to Cairns. But certainly Queensland remains the sort of destination in Australia that makes sense to get to. But the intrastate stuff's been really popular. Sydney to Hunter Valley, Melbourne hasn't really been so much because of a Ring of Steel, but certainly the intrastate stuff's been big, and Tasmania remains a great destination now they're about to open their borders again. So there's plenty to do in Australia, and hopefully we can help out people who want to travel locally.
Fabulous. Well, look, I've got to say, Adam, I think that your story really talks about the resilience of human beings. I'm really happy to hear that your business was not impacted the way many others were by the COVID pandemic, but also that you have taken on this whole pivot mentality that people talk about. In other words, looking for the opportunities that arise from challenge. And I just want to wish you all the best. And for everybody out there, I really hope that sooner rather than later, fear aside, and I fully understand the fear, that you guys get yourselves back in those airplanes, back in the trains, back on the ships, because there are so many people, hundreds of thousands of people who rely on your dollars to pay their bills. And it's scary. Just by the way, Adam, I want to ask a question. What about travel insurance? Do travel insurances at the moment cover COVID? That's a question that I got.
That's a great question. We've been having a bit of an argument with a couple of our insurers about that. And one of our insurers was about to give us a product that apparently had it, that product wasn't quite what we wanted. It was more of a product for us and the customer. So I think they're still working on it. You can certainly get coverage for the medical part. So if you catch COVID abroad, there's plenty of coverage of that. The one that I think people want, and that's the most important one, is if borders shut after you've bought, can you get a refund? I mean, that's probably the critical one. That hasn't come through yet, as we'd hope. I think what we're starting to do now is almost a self-insurance product, whereby you offer a fully refundable product or a fully creditable product. So I think pretty soon, all of our products, well, at the moment it is anyway, you can always buy a luxury escape if you can't go or credit you. So you're not going to...
There you go. So everybody out there, you know what? It's minimal risk. Put your money down as a deposit. I'm sure the deposits aren't what they used to be. I'm sure they're very, very manageable. The money's refundable to a large extent. So get yourselves back in the saddle. Go and enjoy the world. It's such an amazing world, obviously, when it's safe to do so. But in the meantime, take advantage of Australia, all the amazing, incredible places that we have to explore. in our own backyard. I've got to say, it's easier said than done. I was on the internet today trying to find myself somewhere fun to go at the end of the year, and it wasn't easy. So I can tell you that things are being snapped up like this. So I think we really need to get in quick if you haven't gotten yet. So Adam, from me, I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to our next chat, and I wish you all the best, only success in all of your journeys. And I'm going to ask Sam, who is the president of Young UIA and one of our board members, as Rabbi Glassman said, to give his vote of thanks on behalf of Young UIA. And from me, I'm going to say farewell to everybody. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett, and thanks, Adam. I really appreciate you you fitting us in this evening. From what I hear with Brett, your schedule's crazy, and you're a family man as well and a businessman. So yeah, we really appreciate you just like giving up tonight and like you know giving that honest direction about what you're doing and where you're heading. So it's been very humbling and very inspiring. I feel like I'd love to hear more about this, and obviously in our you've got to keep it pretty concise. So really appreciate that. Just in terms, no, of course not. Thank you. And just in terms of us with UIA, we really appreciate that Kilda Shule is hosted tonight, and we love connecting with different organisations. We were with South Caulfield about a month ago, and always looking to connect and always looking to collaborate. Who knows, Adam? Maybe we can collaborate with something with Luxury Escapes in the future.
For sure.
Just in terms of where we're at, this is the first time we've sort of gotten online since we did our charity raising last week. I'm sure like a lot of you on tonight were involved in that, and it was pretty impressive. We raised almost 2.4 million about 2 weeks ago. It was a national campaign, so that was just something I just wanted to get online and just say thank you to everyone who were involved with that. I don't have specific names because there was thousands and thousands of contributors. And just in terms of wrapping it all up tonight, 9 p.m, I think everyone probably wants to go get back into their Netflix series. So really appreciate that, Adam, Yaakov, everyone for joining tonight. It was absolutely beautiful evening, and hopefully we can all do it in person soon.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that. Thank you, Adam, and thank you everybody for joining us on behalf of St. Kilda Shule and Young UIA. We want to thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you at our next joint event. Look after yourselves, everybody.
Thanks, Brett.